Hey everyone. So I want to talk a little bit today about my writing through the body method, and specifically for fiction writers. I will do upcoming videos for memoir and nonfiction. Um, but in this one, I want to talk specifically about how it works for fiction and developing characters. So writing through the body is a method that I created back in 2014, and over the years I've taught it, gotten feedback, perfected it. And so I'm feeling really good and confident about its effectiveness and how it can help you write. So, in short, it is based on the 7 chakras of the body. And before you turn a deaf ear, please hear me out. When people hear chakra, a lot of times they think, oh, that sounds too woo woo for me. That sounds religious to me. And it really is neither. It's an ancient spiritual system that really kind of outlines human development, all the stages of human development. And so I use it in a very practical way. And I will say there are some meditations involved in it when I teach it, but meditation is good for us, and especially, right, if it can help us unlock parts of us that can help us create or write stories. So the way that I utilize writing through the body is to help people develop their characters. And this is where I always start when I teach writing, because as I always say, some people say, well, you need to have a premise if you want to write a story. But my argument is, no, we need to know the people first, because without the people, there would be no premise. Nothing's going to happen if we don't have people or some kind of entity, some kind of character, even if it's an animal, right, who's our protagonist. We have to know things about them to understand their story. So I use, while there are many different chakras, I use the 7 main chakras that are located within the body. So if you don't know, chakras are energy centers in the body, and they each equate to a different, as I said, stage in our development or state of being. And the idea, the theory is that they can be open and closed and have different kind of levels of functioning, which affect us on physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual levels. So that's how they work with us. Well, imagine taking that system and applying it to fictional characters, right? So it's a 7-level method or process that I've created. And I'll just give you a quick down and dirty rundown of how it works. So the first level is the root chakra. And if you can imagine, each chakra has a mantra of sorts. And very simply, you can use these 2-word mantras to start developing a character. So let me show you what I mean. I am is the first chakra. That is the root chakra. And it says, I am. So if you could fill in the blank for your protagonist to start with, and you can apply this to all of your characters eventually, but focus on your protagonist. If you were to start writing, say, 2 pages with your protagonist beginning the statement, I am, what would you end up with? Give it a try and see what comes. And even if it helps, set a timer so that you just keep writing. Let it be kind of stream of consciousness at this point. All right, the second stage is I feel. And so this has to do with how your character relates one-on-one. So give a try at writing 2 pages of your protagonist saying, I feel blank, right? And see where that takes you. The third step is I act or I do. So this is all about your protagonist's sense of agency in the world. If your character were to start a statement, a 2-page statement that begins, I act or I do, what would they say? Step 4 is in the heart area. It is I love. This is how your character loves, forgives, shows compassion. So who and what would your protagonist say they love if they were to write for 2 pages? Let them kind of be inside you when you do this. Try to call them up. Let them be inside you and let them do the writing. See if you can channel them in a way, which is what we do as writers, right? We write about fictional characters and we really do channel their beings through us so that we can tell their stories. Step 5 is in this area, and this says, I speak or I say. So this is about the will of your protagonist, being able to speak their truth, voice their opinion on what they want. So what would you write for at least 2 pages if your protagonist started a statement that says, I speak or I say? Go from there. The 6th, can't count, 6th is located here, and this is the third eye chakra. And this has to do with seeing. Not so much visual seeing, but more intuitive seeing. This is more like an intuitive kind of seeing the world. And kind of like, if you can imagine, from an aerial view, but also a very sensorial view, if we can call it that, sensorial experience. So if your protagonist were to say through you for 2 pages, I see, in that context, what would they say? And what would you write? And then lastly, number 7 is the crown chakra. This is the top of the head, and this mantra is I know. So again, it can be a cognitive kind of mental sort of knowing, but it's also almost another worldly kind of knowing that goes beyond intuition. It's about having a connection to something greater than themselves. And, that can take any form you or the character needs it to. Like I said, this is not a method that imposes some kind of religious view on anyone. This is more about finding ways to define and understand characters. So what would your protagonist say if they began to write through you 2 pages that begin with I know? What do they know? In a real sense, in a maybe even spiritual sense, in kind of this all-knowing aerial view kind of sense. Think of it in writing terms as omniscient. What might they know? All right, so I recommend trying these by hand, because writing by hand unlocks parts of our brain that just don't happen when we write at the keyboard. And, writing at the keyboard definitely has its place. I do plenty of writing at the keyboard, but for these exercises, give them a try by hand and see what comes out. And really commit to at least 2 pages. Set a timer and treat it as a free write if that helps, where you just don't stop, just keep going. This is just for you to get to know your character and be able to learn how to define them on the page. Okay? So I hope that helps. And below, I will list these 7 steps again, what they are, so that you can refer to it if you like. And I would love to know how it works for you. All right? So as always, I send you mad writing mojo. Happy writing.